Welcome to the Believe in Your Office podcast, sponsored by Boomerang and Common Sense Office Furniture, the podcast where we explore what makes workplaces work. Every episode features candid conversations with leaders, business professionals, and workplace experts who've been in the trenches. They share the real stories, the wins, the failures, and the lessons learned about culture, teamwork, and leadership that actually matter. Let's get into it.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Believe in Your Office. I'm your host, Josh Smargiassi, president of Boomerang and Common Sense Office Furniture in Pennsauken and Orlando. I have a really awesome guest today, one of my good friends and colleagues, and we've known each other a really long time, Pat Sapera. Pat, welcome.
Josh, I'm so happy to be here. I'm actually pumped to get this all off and running, baby.
We're eating the frog, Pat.
Yes, we are. You know, I think that's a newer term.
It is. I never heard it. We have to tell everyone. We have to tell everyone what eat the frog is. So I mean, I'm obviously leading with that because, you know, we're going to talk more about this, but go ahead. What is eat the frog?
So eat the frog, and I actually stole this from a bunch of guys and girls in Medford Lakes. So over the last 2.5 years, or let's say 3 winters, I've adopted to jump into the lake. I live in a lake community here in Burlington County, New Jersey, called Medford Lakes, and we get up in the morning, and outside of like brushing your teeth and doing what you have to do, you get in your car, you drive over to the lake, and you jump in. You sit there for about 5 minutes, give or take. And it's something that most people, the general population, just won't even consider or even think about doing. So we talk about eating the frog. It's tough. It's hard. We do it first thing in the morning. So everything after that throughout the day is easy or easier. So
Yep.
There's a ton of benefits that come from it. So, but Josh, you actually ate the frog, I think a couple weeks ago. So
I did.
tell me about your experience. What was that good,
Well,
bad?
I thought it was excellent. I mean, for everyone out there who I'm pretty sure most of the viewers know what a cold plunge is or has seen, you know, now it's like not all the rave, but people talk about how you, excuse me, how you go into a sauna and then you go into a cold tub, and the change in temperature is really good for your body, really good for your, you know, soul and your mind and your energy and all the things. And so like there's all different ways to do it. And so you've, you know, really heard more about it. But to do it raw the way that you practice it is something really awesome. And something that I said, you know what, let me see if we can do this. And I mean, eat the frog is totally right, because I had multiple times that morning thought to myself, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, why are you doing this? Like, you don't have to do this. You eat the frog in many ways every day. Like, you're doing a lot of things pretty active in the business community. You don't need to be doing this as well. But I always wanted to try it out. So listen, we were hanging out watching the national championship game, and then we decided that we were going to do it. And I said, you know, if I say I'm going to do something, I always do. So I don't back out. So me and you and a couple buddies, one of our other guests, Eric, did it with us as well. And I woke up, and I think the cool thing you do is you always post, you know, the temperature. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was 17 degrees that day and 39
The
degree
air,
water
the air
temperature.
temperature.
Yes. Air temperature 79, 39 degrees. You gingerly walked into the lake and with an axe, like Paul Bunyan style. I mean, just shorts on, barefooted with an axe, and broke ice up and made an area for us to walk in and sit down, which I thought was just barbaric, you know, but it was, I watched you do it and I go, he's serious, and I'm freezing. And we walked in and we sat down for 5 minutes in the water, and just, you know, it was about controlling yourself in a situation of being uncomfortable and understanding that mind over matter really is important. And I think that that's a really good business mindset, right? And I do believe that that's why you started doing it, because it was a thought, to something you commit to yourself to say, okay, if I could put myself in this mindset, then I can be more successful that day, that week, that month, or put myself out there to say, okay, you can do hard things, and just because it's hard doesn't mean it's impossible.
Absolutely. And it's funny. We were talking, right, that night, and you said you were going to come. And then immediately I started a text thread with us knuckleheads, right? And then the fact that you showed up, you and Eric, even, we'll throw Brian in there, right? Like you guys showed up. I was like, you already did the hard part,
Yeah.
right? And to intertwine that with, work and business, you said a little bit of it, but I had somebody really smart tell me, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And this was one of the behaviors that I have adopted over the last 3 years that has helped me with that. We're going to do stuff, growing up. Then you're mature and you're a dad. Then if you're lucky enough, you have some kids, and you're going to be in some really uncomfortable, situations, not in a bad way, but in a good way, where you're like, I've never been here before. I'm on uncharted waters, and I freaking love that, man. I don't love being uncomfortable, but I love the growth part of it. So.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. I think that there's no playbook for a lot of things in life. On our first inaugural episode, I think Jonathan and I touched on that about the playbook of parenting, and there isn't one. And so there's certainly no playbook of walking into a lake and sitting down in 39-degree water, and I thought to myself, well, 39 degrees warmer than 17, so maybe it's warmer. Maybe it's warmer, but the reality is your body's still 98, right? So when you're in 39 degree or 17-degree temperature outside, your body's still warm. When you put your body into that 40-degree water with 17 degrees around you, and you just start to think about the situation you're in, you can calm yourself down. And I think what it helped me realize is that there's a lot of situations throughout the day, at work, in an office, where the natural reaction for us to do when you hit that cold water is to like scream, yell, like speak out loud, and get like a little bit frantic. And you realize that it doesn't help at all. What
Mm-mm.
helps is remaining calm and then getting yourself present. And when you're present, then you can realize that, okay, what situation am I in right now? Let's make some good decisions. And once I did that, I said, Pat, how much time do we have left? You're like, bro, we're at 4 minutes. I go, we're at 4 minutes already? I go, I could do anything for a minute. This is crazy. And then it was over. And so reflecting on that, which I probably didn't do till just now, is that there's times when people will come in to the office and we'll have problems, right? And a lot of times I always tell people that we do office furniture. It's not the end of the world. There's a lot of things that are more important than this, right? But at that time, a lot of people, what's most important to them. And so if you take an approach where you don't become present and you're not allowing yourself to think and just calm down and analyze where you're at, you can say and do some things or create some actions that maybe won't be at, the top of what you should have done, or would have been the best choice, put it that way. And so that's teaching you, okay, calm down, take a look, assess where you are. Next thing you know, you have a conversation, and then something that you thought was really, really difficult is handled a lot easier because you actually were able to kind of come into that area of Zen, we'll call it, where you're really analyzing things from a non-emotional state.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. And, one thing that came to mind when you were just talking was like the acronym FEAR. And what that means to me is false evidence appearing real, right? And it's what you tell. It's a story you tell yourself. That's where a lot of times anxiety comes from, right? And we're sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna." And I don't know if I would ever jump out of a plane, but the fact of like thinking about that could drive somebody insane, could drive somebody to, really, really be unstable mentally, right? So a lot of times we have this perception, like, and I get it all the time. I was in a meeting yesterday morning, and they were like, that guy goes in the lake and it's frozen and he's crazy. And I'm like, have you ever tried it? Like, try it one time. If you don't like it, then it's fine. But I think a lot of times people give their self this whole story in their head, and it really is all made up. It's a story that we're telling ourselves that really isn't real. So That's good
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah, no, great. I mean, and I think that's why we do these hard things. You know, I'm always going like, what can I do? Like, what am I able to do? And can I do something even harder the next time? Just because I want to see what I'm able to do. And you find out that a lot of times your mental state is really what's holding you back. And
Mhm.
if you can kind of think positively, a lot of positive things will happen. I mean, last year I did um I'm trying to remember. I think it was 98 total hours, and I did a 98-hour fast.
That's crazy.
The
Okay.
first 24 hours was pretty easy, right? The next 12 hours was hard. And then after that, you're drinking a lot of water, a lot of coffee. After that, you're just you're fine until you get home and your whole family's eating. And that's where you're going, okay, this is hard, but that's why you're doing it. And getting through something like that helps you get through and think about things in just a different way. And I think it's really it's cool to do it. And it's cool to think about how you can grow in many different ways. And I think that's what it's all about. And a lot of times we're talking about the office in that way, like how can we grow, right? Like how can we do things differently? How do we change the office? You know, the whole title of this podcast, Believe in Your Office. What do we do? And the reality is we don't stay stagnant. I'm sure that we work in many different ways now than we ever did in the 80s or 90s, right? Obviously, it's evident. I don't even have to go over the monotony of that, but you're always when you're doing these hard things, you're then thinking, okay, like how do we make them easier? What do we do to make it better? And that's what we're thinking about when we're designing office space. And so, you know, changing and adapting to current times and things that are going on is one of those things that's important. And I think these things that are happening now are what's happening in current times, right? People are talking about the cold plunge. People are talking about, you know, remote work and things, and people are talking about the fasting and all that. And it's just so you just have to, you can't really talk about it unless you experience it for yourself. And so, like you said, some people go like, that's crazy. I would say I was in your boat. The people that think that that's crazy, I was in your boat until I did it. And then you go, okay, I would say right now, challenge yourself to see if you can make it happen because it is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll understand what eat the frog is because you're going, I just sat at 7:30 this morning, I sat in ice cold, frigid temperatures. I feel great and I'm still here and I'm thinking differently. And it's just, it's something that kind of, I think as humans, we want to get better all the time, right? And I think that's one of the things that day particularly helped me do it.
Yeah, that's funny because we actually did a little bit of some footage on that plunge, right? And what the result of that, you throw it out there on social media and it's a lot of things. It's, clients, coworkers, employees that you work with, that you touch, friends, power partners, they all see this and they're like, and it kind of brings it kind of brings you together like a community because they're like,
Mhm.
holy cow, like you're crazy. How do you do that? What does it do to you? Why do you do that? And, it's good content, right? But like at the end of the day, by accident, you're an influencer. And that's what we're all trying to be, right? Whether it's to our, colleagues, our employees, our clients, our
Mhm.
wives, or children, like
Mhm.
this is what we do it for, right?
Mhm.
And it's really good stuff. And not to mention it pushes the needle for other people. They're like, wait, he just did that. Josh just did that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm
maybe I
better.
can do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He thought
Mhm.
he thought Pat was crazy. He thought
Yeah.
all those people that jumped in was crazy. So
Yeah. It
I
was
don't know.
great. So,
But
all right, that's great. I mean, it was. If anyone wants to have more information about it, I'd be happy to invite you out to the lake if you live by. You just, we'll wait till it
absolutely.
maybe isn't frozen as much, but we'd love to have it.
That's the
But,
fun.
but Pat, I mean, you are the man when it comes to residential and office, commercial moving as well, more a little bit more focused on residential. But in that role, you obviously have transitioned since COVID into more of a home base kind of setup where you're working remotely and then using the office as a touchdown. And obviously, you need to be in the office because you have a warehouse where you're storing things for clients and bringing it out and doing things. So, I mean, why don't we talk a little bit about, what the benefits for you? Because I think sometimes people think that because I call this Believe in Your Office and I sell office furniture, I'm just like totally anti, remote work, which I'm not, right? I'm not anti anything really in life. I kind of think that you got to give you got to attack everything with an open mind. I think, you can agree or disagree with something, but at the end of the day, I think there are benefits to remote work. Obviously, self-servingly, there's more benefits to be in the office for me because that's how we create our business. But why don't you go into a little bit about, maybe there's some things, a couple things or two or three things that like you has helped you, being a remote worker and how that, is kind of like what that dichotomy of you being in the office and being remote, what that looks like now since you've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, so let's backtrack just real quick. I started into the moving world way back in 1993. So I'm not sure if I can count that high, but it's
Whoa.
been a while. So started
Some of
out,
our listeners probably weren't even born then.
this is true, which is wild to me. I don't feel
Yeah,
that old. I feel like a
yeah,
spring chicken. But
yeah.
um, so I
93 was the best, like the 94 was the best Sega year. NHL 94 and Sega was the best. That was
absolutely Sega. I love that commercial and Sega. That's
yeah.
awesome. But yeah, so I've been in the business a long time, and I actually started in my sales career back in 2001 with in a family business, and it was we were always in the office. I
Mhm.
remember being in sales meetings, and never would I thought that I would be working remote. I thought it was you got to be belly up to the boardroom table or the desk, and yeah, that's how we met our clients face to face. And then fast forward, COVID happened, and we all got sent home. In that timeline or in that time frame during that 2020 year, I actually changed jobs from one moving company to the next, and now here I am at Olympia Moving and Storage. And I came in, and they were like, "Don't come into the office," and I thought it was the weirdest thing. I was
Mhm.
like, "Wait a minute! I know there's COVID, but like, I need to." Go talk to people. I gotta shake their hands. I gotta,
Right.
you know, kiss babies. I gotta be like in front of them. And it was a complete, adjustment. But what it did for me was it gave me a ton of freedom where I could be here, in my home office and have the best cafeteria in the world. It's like I think it's 7 feet from me, my refrigerator, right? So I had the ability like yesterday, it just in this it just we had a big storm just recently, right? And they plowed the streets. We were in a bunch of snow, and my daughter got stuck, and I was able to go and help her and
Right.
get that. So it gives you so much flexibility. But with clients, I'm still out grinding. They're the most important to me, and love servicing them and getting that and getting their needs met, whether I'm in the office or remote. So
Yeah, and obviously I think one of the big benefits of remote work or COVID forcing remote work is in our world from thinking about moving specifically, there was always another step to the conversation that we don't have anymore, which was, okay, if you're moving an office, a lot of times people don't think that they don't think about this because they don't do it every day, but you and I do. When you're moving an office, that means you have to break down the office,
Mhm.
right? And then you have to move the office, and then you have to install the office. And so there's this downtime, right? And so, if you're buying a new space or leasing a new space and buying new furniture, it's easy. We go, we install the furniture, you come in, take the contents, move everything over, and the next day everyone's working in the new space or whenever they decide to do it. They usually do the move over a weekend or something when people weren't working. But
Right.
you know, when you're when we were back in the old days, 94, we'll call
Sega.
it Sega days, you would have to say, okay, the next conversation would be like, okay, when do you want to move? Well, our
Mhm.
lease ends here on, the 31st, and we are paying the lease on the 3rd in the new space. And you go, okay, well, so we have to move you over the weekend because you have to be up and running. Oh, yeah, we have to be up and running. Okay, well, that costs more,
Mhm.
because it's overtime and all this stuff. And, we actually aren't going to be able to get it done in 2 days. Like,
Mhm.
this is a big move. We can't do it in 2 days. What do you mean? We have to have people working. Well, you're going to have to get people off. Well, I don't want to have people off. And you would have to do this whole rigmarole in this schedule where you would have to really try to figure out what is going to happen logistically so you could get people working without missing any days,
Right.
or you would plan around a big company event or a big thing that was happening where it was slow so you could do the move and it would make more sense. Or end of the year would get really busy because people were like, it's slower then, holidays, people are taking off. Now, remote work, I go, okay, guys, your furniture's gonna be ready. We're gonna move you, and we're gonna add some new furniture, and Pat's gonna move your contents. When do you want to do that? They go, I don't know. When is it ready? And you go, oh, well, it'll be ready in 2 weeks. They go, okay. I go, what about your workers? They go, well, we'll just make them work from home for a couple of days,
Right.
because now you have the ability to do that. The bandwidth is there. Everyone knows. It sounds funny now, but I remember during COVID, people were like, how am I gonna work from home? I mean, that was the question. What do you mean? I can't. But it doesn't respond that way. Like I don't know how to, my computer's not as fast, or I don't have this setup. I don't have my high adjustable desk. I don't have my desk is right-handed here. It's left-handed at home. Everything's backwards. I can't figure it out. And COVID made us actually become comfortable with that. And one of the benefits is it's saved money
Mhm.
for a lot of companies, which it's always good to save money, right? And it's also better for our workers as well, right? So you think about there's when you move an office, you have people that are doing the work, and so making them work over the weekend, they're away from their families, they're away from their kids' sporting events and things like that, and that was part of the job. It was just part of the
Mhm.
job, and you just knew that that was part of the job. Like any job that has overtime, public servant or healthcare or movers or whatever it is, that's part of the job. Well, now it's not part of the job anymore because that still happens, but it's a little bit more infrequent because now you say to the person, you guys can work at home. And then when you come back, instead of coming to this address, go to that address, everything will be set up. And I think that's a really cool benefit of being so remote and being able to be so flexible.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. It's definitely been a paradigm shift to working in this environment, but it's for the best. And
Mhm.
we all we're what is it? We're on demand, right? We go on Amazon and we want that new laptop and we hit click and it's here in 6 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We are like a world of instant right now, and
Yeah.
so have our kids growing up. But yeah, no, it's a good world to be in. I love the moving world. I've been doing it. It's what I know. It's in my blood. As my dad would say, it's in my blood, my genes, and my khakis. So I got all of them.
That's great. That's a good
Uh,
one.
yeah.
With that said, there's still some benefits to the office, right? Like, and so what do you like most about when you go there? Because, a lot of times it's connections is what I hear first, but when you're planning your day, you have
Mhm.
3, 4, 5 appointments. You got to eat the frog in the morning in the lake, and then you got to go out. When you go to the office, what's the things that you find most beneficial when you get there?
It's just making those touch points. It's the camaraderie. It's, sitting around, the water cooler, as they used to call it, right? And, shooting the breeze. Like, how are things going? Kind of
Mhm.
doing the follow-ups, face to face, like, hey, job A, B, and C this past week. How'd it go?
Yep.
Like, I didn't hear from you. So I expect I
Mhm.
was probably assuming it was fine, but like, anything I could do better?
Yep.
And as far as there's still something about walking up to somebody, talking to them, shaking their hand, maybe giving them a hug or a pat on the back. And we're creatures of like touch. We need to see touch, you know what I mean? So I love being in the office. We're in the office about once a week unless I have a meeting in the office with a client, and then I'll be in there a little bit more. But I love the camaraderie, the culture, and then we get to sometimes do some after hour stuff too, right?
Yeah.
That builds the relationships even deeper and stronger.
Yeah, that's the best. And just to touch on the part you just mentioned about the water cooler, it's so important. I think, there's a chat feature, even on this Zoom call that we're doing right now, or this Zoom meeting that we're recording for our podcast. There's a chat feature, but you don't get the same personality from a chat, right? And a
Mm-mm.
lot of times you don't get the same personality from a text or an email. Sometimes people read in a certain way that's completely off base. It's just, you just are it's not the same inflection. And I think you learn about people's families, you learn about the struggles they're going through, you learn about the successes they're having, you maybe catch some mistakes that may be going on, you maybe get some misperceptions, you get some really great stories. All that stuff is really cool. And
Mhm.
I think Boomer, I think everyone knows we've kind of talked about this, but we've adopted a kind of little bit of a what we call a hybrid schedule, even though it's not hybrid. We work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 9 hours, and on
Mhm.
Friday we work till noon. And so
Nice.
we only work till noon every Friday. And that started in the summers, right? Like people down here in New Jersey used to always say, well, it's a beach or mountain time, on the weekends. And so everyone would cut out. And I thought that it wasn't really fair that since we have a split workforce where we have some professional workers, well, everyone's professional, but we have some office workers and then some contractors, it wasn't fair
Mhm.
because the contractors were still working because, the
They
office
rub a
staff was
job.
like, well, see you later, but they still have to get the trucks done and they got to get all the, and so I started saying, we got to make it fair. Let's only work till 12. And that's really what I think people were looking at when it comes to remote work. They just wanted a little bit more time to be able to do the things you said, where you're creating some doctor's appointments, you're doing other things that maybe you would have to take off for, or, just have some of that flexibility in the schedule there. But what's really happened and occurred because of that, and why I started rambling, is on Fridays, it's the water cooler day.
Mm.
It's the coolest day. Everyone wants to be here because we're only working until 12. So it's like
Yeah, it's
it's an
exciting.
easy day, right? So you're busting your butt all week. You come to the office on Friday, people start talking. All the guys are here because we handle small projects and punch lists and things on Fridays. And we typically handle all the large projects Monday through Thursday. So all the men are usually here, and ladies are usually here probably, maybe we do some things in the morning. They're back by 10, 11, and then the office staff is here and we're all talking. And we're all, we don't get to see each other a lot because they're out in the field and we're here. And now it became this culture that you're building. And this is occurring both here in New Jersey and in Orlando. And I think that, it's a really cool feature. And, the water cooler thing is something that I think we've lost touch of just a little bit, which is cool to bring back.
Absolutely. And like yourself, in a good way, I think both of us have some pretty big personalities, right? And it's contagious, right? I think not all, but I think most, I can go on a limb here and go most people enjoy that, and that gets lost a lot of times through that chat and that text.
Yeah.
So I do. I love
Dad jokes
being
do
face
not
to
go over
face.
good on text.
I mean, there's some body language with that. There's some
Yeah.
inflection. There's some, there's definitely variables. So, but that's good
Inflection's a
stuff.
big thing, and it matters. Yeah. So the other thing, I don't know if there's anything else you want to touch on with the office. I was wondering now because, obviously you do some moves residentially and commercially, but when you're moving people now, are there any hiccups, or maybe not hiccups because maybe that's not a good word, but are there any things that come up when now people are working at home? If they're moving their house, does that become an issue if they're a fully remote worker?
Sometimes it can be. I mean, there could be, hundreds of different things that can happen or variables. But, let's take for an example, the CEO, right? Or the doctor that is, usually would go to the office or the hospital and they'd be working. Now you'll find a lot of times on the residential side, they might be home at their home office and it's moving day
Mhm.
and we're taking stuff apart. There might be some added noise in the home. We're, tape, you hear tape, wrenching, and we're packing boxes and we're moving stuff, onto the truck. And I mean, that could sometimes be a little bit of an issue, but, all in all, look, moving is hard. We're all creatures of habit, right? And when we come in, we disrupt things, not in a bad way. I mean, it's planned, right? But it's something that we come in and we can certainly help with full service, whether it's the packing needs. You have that Peloton, we can take that apart and put that back together safely. Everybody's got the TV on the wall, right? Yeah, and then on the back end, we work with a lot of seniors and we have to put stuff back together, whether it's seniors or even restoration companies. So on the restoration side, It's awful. It's a natural disaster. Somebody's basement is flooded. We'll come in and move all the salvageable items out, and then we'll store it for, I don't know, the time that the demo needs to be done, whether it's the demo and the reconstruction. And we'll come back and then put everything back in place and then hang the pictures on the wall, put everything back together. So it is a full service. People really, really love that because they don't have to call multiple vendors. It's kind of a one-stop shop. So a lot of my clients are like, wow, I would have had to call a handyman, a GC, a mover, a piano mover. We can take all those off the table and do it under one umbrella.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I have seen it firsthand. You guys have been a great partner in that and resource. I think, as I said earlier in the podcast, do what you say, or if you make an obligation, do it. You guys have always done that in business, and obviously eating the frog in the ice. So it's been a good little parallel there. But Pat, this has been awesome. I think this was a great conversation. I'm going to take something with me today that I wrote down when you said it. Fear, false evidence appearing real. If you really think about that, it's pretty powerful. So I thank you for that little tidbit. I thank you.
I want to cut you off for 1 second. I don't want to end it. I just want to ask you. I have a question for you.
All right, let's do it.
And you've heard me already say this in the past.
Yeah.
So today is Friday.
Yeah.
Right. For all those listeners out there, and when this airs, it probably won't be that day, but today is Friday. And because it's Friday, it's gratitude.
Yeah,
Friday.
It is.
So
you're right.
I need to hear one thing that Josh is grateful for today. Let's go. Boom.
I gotta limit. Do I have to limit it to one thing?
No, you can do a handful of things.
Well, I mean, obviously, my most grateful thing right now is my friends and my family and my friends. Either way you want to say it, I think I include that in my work family. I think that I feel incredibly blessed to be supported in all aspects of my life. Supported with just people who believe the same things that I do, have the same values that we have together, have the same goals in business and in life. And I am just one leader, but I really am not the one who's completing all the work. And I am grateful for everyone who actually it just comes to work and does their job, and my family who supports me. I mean, I'm back and forth to Orlando every week, and that's not easy, right? Like I'm 3 days down there and 4 days up here, and that takes a lot of effort on both sides. My family as a whole, my wife, my family at work who, I'm not here all the time. So I'm grateful for support of my family and friends, and then I could keep going on. But I think that's the thing that's top of mind right now.
I love that. And just to, add on to that, a little bit of my gratitude. I'm obviously grateful for my family and friends and my beautiful wife, right? But I'm also grateful for you, bud. Like inviting me onto this wonderful podcast. I'm grateful that you came into the lake with me, right? I'm grateful that, we have this now one-liner, or, that the eat the frog, like, yeah, look, this is what it's about. It's about relationships. And I'm grateful for all the wonderful relationships that, I have fostered in my 30 plus years in business, and for all the clients and the power partners and everything that comes along with that. So there's a ton to be grateful for, and I appreciate you sharing yours.
I'm 100% in agreement with you. I'm grateful for you giving me the opportunity to freeze my tuchus off and learn a little bit more about myself. So that's awesome. And I appreciate you for stopping me there, because that's one of the best things I love about you is that Grateful Friday, what you're grateful, Gratitude Friday. It's the best because, I think it's important to remember that, a lot of times you get so lost in the forest, you can't see the trees, and, you sit back and go, pretty lucky, and there's a lot of things to look at and kind of reflect on. So thank you for doing that. And
of course,
again, thanks for the time. This is awesome. I'm going to remember your acronym of the fear. I want everyone to believe in their office, and let's make a little noise quietly.
Your office isn't just where work happens. It's where culture is built, ideas are born, and teams come together. And if your workspace doesn't support the people in it, everything else becomes harder. That's where Boomerang and Common Sense Office Furniture comes in, supporting communities in Orlando, Florida, the tri-state area, and everywhere in between. Boomerang and Common Sense both specialize in high-quality office, hospitality, healthcare, and educational furniture that doesn't just look good, it performs. Whether you're furnishing a growing team, redesigning for hybrid work, or just need furniture that actually works for how people collaborate, Boomerang and Common Sense make it easy and affordable. Visit boomerangofficefurniture.com to see how the right furniture can transform the way your team works.